What is up, guys? In today's video, we're going to be talking about the tow hook item, which was added in this week's Metallica update. As always, if you guys do find this video helpful, informative, interesting, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you'd like to see more, and comment down below what you think of the tow hook and which item is your favorite kind of car counter item currently in the game. So, just a quick overview of this weapon. I think it's a really solid weapon as far as like player versus player goes, and then it can also potentially be used against cars. It will deal 100 damage to players and 300 damage to cars upon hitting them. It uses heavy ammo and has a range of 50 meters. So from meter 1 to 50, you'll hit and you'll do the same amount of damage. There's no damage drop off. But if someone is outside of 50 meters, you just literally will not reach them with the tow hook. It has like a set range. But within that range, it always does the same amount of damage. You don't have to worry about damage drop off. One interesting thing about this item is that you can find it in the upgraded ammo boxes. And so that could be very helpful if you're looking for this item and want it. Make sure you're checking those. But also off spawn, if there's an upgraded ammo box, I would highly recommend checking it if you don't have a gun yet, or just always. But in desperate times, getting this out of the big ammo box can be pretty helpful. As far as fighting players go, I think it can be quite good as it does 100 damage no matter where you hit the person. It doesn't have a headshot multiplier, so it's not like it does extra if you hit them in the head. But no matter where, if you hit the person, you'll do 100 damage. Don't have to worry about drop off or anything like that. It does have a really bad pullout time, though, and a really slow reload speed. So if you're going to use this, make sure you have it loaded. That way you don't go to use it and it's not loaded. It's not a quick reload. And don't really expect to be swapping to this during a fight unless you really have time. But if you're in like a close range shotgun fight, going to this is going to be rough. It's a lot better to kind of like open a fight with. I think if you're about to get into a fight with somebody and you have the tow hook out, you hit them with it and then swap to your shotgun, you can do a lot of damage in a very short time span. But if you try to go from shotgun to the tow hook, it's going to be rough because the pullout time on this weapon is terrible. And it will also knock opponents back away from it, which can be very disorienting for them. It might cause fall damage. It might knock them into, a bad area to be in as far as cover goes. But also if you're using shotguns, you got to keep in mind that you might knock them out of shotgun range, which won't really matter that much with the combat shotgun if that's what you like using. But with something like the Gatekeeper or the Mythic Auto, if you're going to open a fight with this, then you might end up knocking them out of shotgun range. So just kind of keep that in mind. And if you have the dashes from the green water, that could be something that's pretty helpful. Maybe you knock them back with the tow hook. From the player perspective, it's very disorienting to just have your character model like pushed somewhere else. I'm sure a lot of you know this when playing against the gloves. But also if someone does that to you and then dashes to like the side of you or behind you, I feel like that's a very chaotic fight. And your damage potential there, if you're the person using the tow hook, is like very good. You can also interrupt player momentum and movement with this. So like if someone's trying to go on you with the gloves, you can just shoot them with this and like completely interrupt them. It's definitely a hard shot to hit. So if your aim isn't very good, I wouldn't recommend going for it. But you'll see in this clip here, someone actually did that to me when I was fighting them. I went to go ground pound them with the gloves and they just shot me with the tow hook. And it like made that fight a lot more awkward for me to play out than it would have been otherwise. So it definitely has potential when fighting players. But it's a very kind of like all or nothing weapon. If you miss your shot, then you miss your shot and you've kind of wasted that time and maybe that comes back to bite you. When it comes to fighting cars, I think it can be helpful, but it is a lot more risky than the other options, I think. It will do 300 damage upon hitting the car, which is like something, but the boom bolt crossbow also does 300 damage or more, if I remember correctly. So it's really not that different, and even just shooting an AR at the car, if you're not in immediate danger, like that amount of damage you get can add up very, very quick. When you do hit the car with the tow hook, you'll be dragged behind it. And then you kind of have a lot of options here. You can continue to be dragged behind it and like shoot at the car, or get close enough to the point where you can get on top of it. There will be like an animation where your character gets on the car. And then from that, you can maybe go for the pickaxe trick or try to get onto like the windshield and maybe easily eliminate the players inside if they do keep driving. Versus the mythic cars, I feel like it's pretty weird to shoot the players inside when you're on the windshield than the regular cars for some reason. I don't know if this is like intentional, like it's supposed to be harder to shoot through the windshield of the mythic cars, but when I'm on a regular car and I'm on the windshield, no problem at all shooting the people inside. But the mythic cars are just weird. And I've seen other players talk about this as well. It's not like a me problem. If you guys do not know what the pickaxe trick is, it's when you swing your pickaxe as you're entering a car, you keep the button held the entire time, and then you look at the person in the car you want to pickaxe. You do not ever release your swing button. So for me, that button is right trigger, and my get into the car button is square. So if I was going for this, I'd press and hold right trigger. It does not get released, and then tap square. Now I'm in the car, and I'm looking at the person that I want to pickaxe, and then all the while this is happening, I am never releasing right trigger. If you release right trigger at any time during this, it messes it up. So that is the pickaxe trick, and you can deal damage that way to people through the car. 20 damage per swing. Going for the pickaxe trick can be really nice, but if it's a two-seater car with a turret on it, you're going to end up in the, or if you just end up in the turret seat of a car, it will not work. And then using the pickaxe trick as initiation to a fight can be a gamble. Like if someone is full 250 health and zero build, and you get in and do the pickaxe trick and hit for like 40 overshield to them, and then they just get out and beam you, that 40 damage really isn't that worthwhile. And it can go south very quick if the opponent knows how to play against it. I think the pickaxe trick is really best on people who just don't know it's a thing, and then they just sit in the car and take damage, or at least take a lot of damage. And this is something that you can't really know until you've already gone for it. Like if you see a car, you can't know like, oh, that guy doesn't know about the pickaxe trick, this will be a free kill. If you're doing it on a good player that knows about it, I don't think you're going to get very much damage, and they're probably going to just get out and shoot you, and that can do a lot of damage in a very short time span, and then they just get in the car. I think it's best when you already have the opponent weak. I don't want to go do the pickaxe trick to people that I think are full health, or that I don't know anything about their HP, unless I'm just kind of like, sometimes you're playing and you don't care, you know, that's fine. But if you really want to win, it's a risky play, and I think it's really best to only use on people that you know are weak, like maybe you're third-partying them, or you're just having a fight with somebody, and then you get in some damage on them, they get in a car, maybe then you tow hook onto the car, do the pickaxe trip to kind of keep that pressure, and I think it makes a lot more sense and in those situations, because the opponent's HP is already lower, you know? Trying to 250 to 0 somebody with the pickaxe is rough. If they have like less than 100 health, even if you don't eliminate them with the pickaxe trick, just a few swings makes it like very easy to get that elimination with like a middling shotgun shot, you know? So I think the pickaxe trick is very good and it's very useful, but it isn't just an automatic win in a fight that some people make it out to be, and it can definitely backfire on you if the opponent knows about it and plays well against it. You can also just shoot your gun at the car while you're being dragged behind it, but with this, you kind of run into the risk of not having it loaded if your opponent kind of like crashes into something and then fights you, or if they just get out and fight you. So again, this is medium upside, potentially very bad. If you're just shooting at a car across the map, or one that's not really focusing on you, then it's fine. But if you're shooting at a car that you're being dragged behind and that person is very incentivized to get out and fight you, fighting them with no ammo could, you know, go poorly for you. And then also, while being dragged behind the car, I think you make yourself a very easy target. In solos, this might not matter that much, but if the driver swaps to the turret seat, it can very quickly go poorly for you, and you can just like outright lose the game there. And then in team game modes, I think you should very often just get fried by a turret user, or even if there's just passengers in the seats with guns, like it should be very easy for them to eliminate the person getting dragged behind the car, unless they're very distracted with like another car fight or something. And you can choose to detach when you're tow hooked onto a car, but you're not the one driving the car, so like you don't have control over where you are. If you tow hook onto a car and then they start beaming you and you're like, oh, I need to detach, and then you're just in the middle of a field, you're probably still just gonna lose that fight, you know? So it's like, I feel like the detach, it's there, but like you often don't get to pick. Like if you're detaching, things are going poorly for you, and you don't get to choose where you are in that moment because you're getting dragged behind an enemy car. So I don't think the fact that you can just detach means it's like always gonna work and it's like a foolproof item. You know what I mean? So when it comes to using the tow hook on players, I feel like it could be very good. It has a very high upside, but it also has a very, like, if you just miss your shot, things can go very poorly for you in the fight quickly, if it is an actual fight where the opponent is shooting back, you know? Versus cars, I think it's like a medium upside and very risky item. Like you've heard the term like high risk, high reward. I feel like this is like mid reward, very high risk. And when you compare it to the other vehicle counter items we have in the car, in the game right now. I said in the car now. But if you compare it to the other vehicle counter items we have in the game right now, like the crossbow and the EMPs, I think both of those items are much better counters to the car while also being safer and less risky. So it's like the upside of those items I think is better and the risk is lower. The tow hook has lower reward, higher risk. So I'm not the biggest fan of this item. I think it's a fun like item to play around with, but if I wanted to get on and play to get wins, I think I would much rather use the EMPs or the boombolt crossbow. And as of right now, I think the EMPs are my favorite counter to the cars. If you guys do not know, they were also unvaulted in this update. The boogie bombs were vaulted. They do 80 shield damage to the players inside the car, and they disable the car for 10 seconds, and they disable the turret in the car, which is huge. So if you chuck 2 EMPs at a car, now that car is not going anywhere. It will kind of carry its momentum. So if they were driving fast, you know, when you get out of a car, how it'll keep driving, it'll do like that. But their car will eventually stop, and then they'll potentially be stranded in no man's land. And if you just chucked 2 at them, they have no shield anymore. And if you do this in a fight, like let's say you're shooting at someone, you get some damage, they get into a car, you EMP their car, now you got shield damage and they're stuck. I think it's just much more difficult for the car player to play against EMPs than it is for them to play against a tow hook. Obviously, the tow hook is more common, I feel like, and it's less of a resource. Like, you just need heavy ammo. So, like, EMPs, you have to find them, but they do drop 3 in a stack, and I really haven't had that hard of a time finding them, and you can carry 6. So, it's like 2 EMPs is basically a guaranteed elimination on a car. 1 is significantly impairing that car. They can't go anywhere, they can't use the turret, and they just took 80 shield damage. So I would much rather use EMPs than the tow hook as far as a vehicle counter item. And I would also much rather use the boombolt crossbow as a vehicle counter item where you can just spam shot after shot with the boombolt. Rocket ammo is a concern. But yeah, that is going to be it for this video. I think the tow hook is good. It's a nice item to have in the game. It's something different. But I don't think it's just like you carry this and then you don't have to worry about cars anymore. I think both the EMPs and the boombolts are a better item for countering cars. But let me know what you guys think of the tow hook and what your favorite item is to use against cars. And I will see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.